Alright, so this is part one of a video series about installing an SMX screen. SMX screen is a DIY screen that started with me not really wanting to do a DIY screen. So I came up with the idea that maybe we could put together all of the components in a kit and basically buy all of the components and put them together rather than doing a lot of fabrication. So everything is, to the highest extent possible, everything is off the shelf, pre-cut, ready to go. So once you order everything, you basically have a kit just like a kit you would order from a commercial vendor. And there's still a fair amount of work with any screen as far as installation and assembly, so we can't get around that, but hopefully it will simplify things and make DIY a little bit more palatable for some of us who don't really want to deal with a bunch of custom work. So what I want to show today is basically preparing the surface for screen installation. What you see here is basically I've installed some blocks and they're painted over, but I have some blocks here that I've installed. They're just 2x4, and basically what we're looking for is to make the screen surface that we're going to mount on as flush and as flat as possible. And these blocks, you can shim them out, or if you have a if you have a false wall, maybe you don't really have to deal with this because the false wall is totally plumb and flat. But this gives you the opportunity to do some shimming. You can also shim afterwards, and I'll show that in a second. But I'm using a laser. This has really been instrumental. Self-leveling laser gives nice, perpendicular angles. And just for laying out the theater in general, it's just been a really great tool. But what I've done here is I've set up the laser so that basically it's shining on the center of the screen. And I'm going from the center of the screen all the way to the back where the projector is going to be. I've got that nice line right in the middle where the projector will be. This ensures, that the screen is going to be as perpendicular as possible to the projector and not like off at an angle or tilted. So, that this results in having a line where basically this is going to be representing the face, either the face of the screen or something very parallel to where the face of the screen will be. And that will allow you, basically you come in here and I've got my mounting bracket here and I can see, that basically things are going to be flat when I go to mount the screen. Now, like I mentioned, you can shim the block, but if you want to, you can actually shim afterwards using, an extra bracket. You can come in here and you can mount like this if you decide that it needs to come out a little bit farther. It's a lot harder to go in than out, so what you want to do is measure all the places where you're going to have mounting points and figure out which one's farthest out and use that as a point of reference so that the ones that are sunken in further, you can just shim out. It's harder, if you start the other way, then you may end up trying to chisel pieces out of your wood, or whatever. So yeah, so once you have it all flat, basically you're going to install these blocks with some lag bolts. And again, you can use the laser to make sure that they're nice and even across here. So we'll have some across the top and across the bottom. And once those are installed, then we'll be ready to actually assemble our screen and start hanging it on the wall. So I've got my first two brackets installed, you can see up there. And I actually went to the trouble of setting up my laser on a pole. Now, you don't have to go to this trouble. You don't expect you to spend $300 on a fancy laser setup. You can use just a regular level and draw a line across the wall. But the point is that we really want to get those brackets nice and level with each other. That'll give us a nice foundation for when we mount our screen on the wall. We'll know already that it's going to be straight and it's going to be level and perpendicular to the screen. I'm using these 4-inch lag bolts. You can use whatever you have on hand. The nice thing about these is that they're 4 inches long, so they'll go through our block and through the drywall and into the stud. So, you know, whatever you use, just make sure that it's going to be the correct size to give a nice solid connection there. So I'll just continue to install these and we'll go from there. All right, so now we have all 4 of the brackets installed, and you can see I've got this laser set up again, and I got the line going through the holes, the mounting holes, all the way across. And so hopefully, you know, as long as we're careful, you can see on this one I needed to shim it out a little bit, and that's okay because, you know, the wall's not perfect and our screen will be, so it doesn't bother me any. So that's pretty much it, and now we're ready to do the fun stuff. We're gonna assemble the screen and hang it on the wall. One last thing I'd mention is that I did leave the lower mounts off, and the reason for that is because once we get the frame on the wall, then I will attach those. I'll know exactly where they need to go. I don't have to worry about being off by a little bit. So we'll do that towards the end. So onto the frame.